Take a deep breath. This is not just another story about success. This is about courage, about failure, and about never giving up. It's about a boy who dreamed of the stars and a man who built rockets to reach them. As you listen, you will not only be inspired, you will also improve your English naturally with every clear, simple word. So stay until the end, because this story might change the way you look at your dreams and at yourself. Elon was a quiet boy. He grew up in Pretoria, a sunny city in South Africa. The streets were busy with children playing soccer. But Elon did not play much. He liked books. He liked computers. He liked to think. He spent hours in his room. He read science fiction. He read about rockets, planets, and heroes who built new worlds. His father did not understand him. His friends thought he was strange, but Elon did not stop reading. He wanted to know more. He wanted to see what others could not. One day, when he was 10, his father brought home a small computer. It was old and slow, but to Elon it was magic. He taught himself how to program. There was no teacher. There was no internet like today. Just books and his own curiosity. He stayed up late, typing lines of code. Letters and numbers filled the screen. It was confusing, but he loved the challenge. After many tries, he built his first simple game. He named it Blastar. He sold it for $500. It was his first success. He smiled quietly. That small moment taught him a lesson. If you keep learning, you can build anything. But outside the room, life was harder. Elon was small and shy. School was not kind. Some boys bullied him. They pushed him. They laughed at him for being different. He would sit alone during lunch, dreaming of places far from South Africa. Often looked at the sky at night. The stars were bright and the air was quiet. He whispered to himself, "One day I will go there. One day I will build something big." His mother, May, saw his hunger to learn. She was strong and kind. She told him, "Keep going, Elon. Your mind is your gift." Those words stayed with him. They became his silent strength. Even as a child, Elon learned something important. Curiosity is power. When you are curious, you ask questions. When you ask questions, you find answers. And when you find answers, you grow. At night, when everyone slept, he would read about inventors. Edison, Tesla, and others who dared to dream. He told himself, they were just people. If they could do it, why not me? But life was still full of pain. The bullying grew worse. One day, a group of boys pushed him down a flight of stairs. He was hurt and scared. For weeks, he could barely move. But even in that pain, his mind stayed alive. He planned his escape. He wanted a new life where he could be free to create by the time he turned 17. Elon had one goal: leave South Africa. He wanted to find a place where ideas were welcome. A place where he could dream bigger. He saved money quietly. He talked to his mother, and finally he found a way. Canada was far away, but it was a start. It would be his first step toward the future. As he packed his small bag, he looked again at the stars. They seemed closer now. Someday, he whispered, I will reach you. Elon was 17. The house in Pretoria felt small. The streets he once knew now felt like a cage. He wanted freedom. He wanted a place where ideas mattered more than family names or old rules. Canada seemed like that place. His mother, May, supported his dream. She told him, go, Elon, don't be afraid. The world is waiting for you. Her words gave him courage. He sold what little he had, packed a small bag, and bought a one-way ticket. When the plane lifted off the ground, he pressed his face to the window. The city grew smaller and smaller. He thought, this is it. My new life begins now. Canada was cold, much colder than South Africa. The wind cut through his thin jacket as he walked through the airport. He had no friends, no home, and only a little money in his pocket. But inside he carried a fire. He told himself, I will make it. His first months were hard. He stayed with relatives, but he knew he could not depend on them for long. He worked odd jobs to survive, cleaning floors, carrying heavy bags. Anything that paid a few dollars a night, he studied. He read about physics and business. He dreamed of building something that would change the world. Some nights, hunger kept him awake, but his dream was bigger than his pain. One evening, he sat alone in a library. Snow tapped against the windows. His hands were cold, but his mind was alive. He wrote in a notebook, I want to help the human race. I want to make life better. I want to reach the stars. He smiled. It sounded crazy. But deep down, he believed it. Elon enrolled at Queen's University. It was not easy. He had no rich family to pay for his studies, so he worked harder than anyone else. He took part-time jobs, applied for small scholarships, and saved every coin. During the day, he attended classes. At night, he read books on engineering, physics, and technology. He wanted to understand how the world worked and how to change it. But not everything was perfect. Many people doubted him. They called him too ambitious. Some professors thought his questions were silly. Mars, rockets, electric cars. Be realistic, they said. But Elon did not stop. He told himself, if they laugh at you, you are probably onto something big. The first time Elon saw a real rocket launch on TV, his heart raced. He thought, one day, I will build my own rocket. One day, I will go beyond this planet. That thought became his secret promise. In Canada. Elon learned two big lessons. Courage is leaving your comfort zone. If you want a better future, you must be brave enough to take the first step. Hard work beats everything. Even when you start with nothing, effort builds the bridge to your dream. By the time he finished 2 years in Canada, Elon was ready for the next leap. He applied to the University of Pennsylvania in the United States. His grades were high, his determination even higher. When the acceptance letter came, he sat in silence for a moment. Then he whispered, this is it. The next chapter begins. He knew the road ahead would be difficult. But for Elon, difficulty was never the enemy. Fear was. And fear would not stop him now. As the bus carried him across the border into America, Elon looked out at the endless roads. Ahead, someday, he thought, I will build something the world has never seen. The streets of Philadelphia were alive. Cars honked, students hurried to classes, and vendors shouted on the sidewalks. Elon walked among them with his old backpack, his head full of dreams. The University of Pennsylvania was different. Bigger, faster, smarter. Elon felt small at first. But he reminded himself everyone starts somewhere. He had very little money. Rent was high. Food was expensive. So, Elon found ways to survive. He shared a small room with other students. He ate cheap meals, instant noodles, peanut butter sandwiches, and free pizza from events. But one thing never changed. His hunger for knowledge. He studied business during the day and physics at night. He read about space, energy, and the power of the internet. He wanted to learn everything. One night, Elon sat in the computer lab, the glow of the monitor lighting his face. The internet was still new. Most people saw it as a toy. But Elon saw the future. This, he whispered, will change the world. He started building small programs and experimenting with ideas. He slept less, worked more, and lived inside that lab. Every mistake was a lesson. Every success, no matter how small, was fuel for his dream. Then came his first real success. Elon created a simple program, a small online game similar to the one he had built as a boy in South Africa. It wasn't perfect, but it worked. A local company saw and offered him $500. $500 for most students, it was just money. But for Elon, it was proof that his skills had value. Proof that ideas could become reality. That night, he looked up at the stars outside his dorm. This is just the beginning. Elon worked hard, not just in school, but outside of it. He took internships. He asked questions no one else dared to ask. How do businesses grow? Why do some fail? How do you build something that lasts? Every job, every conversation, every failure taught him a new lesson. And there were failures, small but painful, projects that didn't work, plans that collapsed, nights when doubt whispered, maybe this is too hard. But each time, Elon pushed forward. Lesson, a small step, is still progress. Success is built one step at a time. Got by his final year at Penn, Elon started dreaming bigger. He didn't just want a job after graduation. He wanted to build companies that solved problems, real problems. He started talking about online banking, electric cars, and rockets. Most people laughed. Some said, "Be practical, Elon. Get a safe job." But Elon wasn't listening. He wrote in his journal, "If something is important enough, you do it, even if the odds are against you." After graduation, Elon and his brother Kimball packed their few belongings and moved to California. The dream was no longer a dream. It was a plan. The tech world in Silicon Valley was exploding, and Elon wanted to be in the center of it. They rented a tiny office. The front of the office was their workspace. The back was where they slept. Two brothers, one computer, and endless ambition. It wasn't comfortable. It wasn't easy. But it was exciting. This, Elon thought, lying on the floor of that office, is where it begins. California was loud, bright, and full of opportunity. The year was 1995. The internet boom had just begun, and everyone wanted to build the next big thing. Elon arrived with almost nothing. Just a suitcase, a computer, and a heart full of ambition. He and his brother Kimball rented a tiny office in Palo Alto. By day, they worked on their idea. By night, they rolled out sleeping bags on the cold office floor and slept among wires, empty pizza boxes, and old coffee cups. There was no shower. To get clean, they used the gym down the street. This is the price of the dream, Elon told himself. Their first company was Zip2. It was simple, but ahead of its time. Elon wanted to put maps and business directories online so newspapers could use them. Back then, people didn't believe in online maps. Most didn't even understand the internet. When Elon pitched the idea to investors, they shook their heads. "It's not practical," they said. Some even laughed. But Elon didn't give up. He coded for 18 hours a day, every day. He skipped parties. He skipped sleep. There were nights when his fingers hurt from typing, but he kept going. One evening, exhausted and alone in the office, he whispered to himself, "Work hard now so the future can be easier." Finally, a small breakthrough came. A newspaper company agreed to try Zip2, then another. Slowly, more doors began to open. Money started coming in, not much at first, but enough to keep the lights on and the dream alive. But with success came new challenges. Investors wanted control. They wanted to make decisions for the company. Elon was young and inexperienced. He didn't always know how to fight back. Sometimes they ignored his ideas. Sometimes they told him he wasn't ready to lead. It hurt. But Elon learned something important. Business is not just about building. It's also about managing people and power. Despite the struggles, Zip2 grew fast. Big newspapers like the New York Times and Chicago Tribune began using the platform. Suddenly, Elon went from sleeping on the office floor to sitting in meetings with powerful executives. But he didn't let success distract him. He stayed focused. He saved every dollar. He read books about business, leadership, and technology. He wanted to be ready for the next big thing. Then, in 1999, a major company offered to buy Zip2 for $307 million. Elon's share was $22 million. For the first time, he had real money, more money than he had ever dreamed of. Most people would have stopped there, bought a big house, bought a fast car, lived a quiet life, but not Elon. Not to him. Zip2 was just the first step. He asked himself, what's next? What problem can I solve now? And he found his answer. Money. Back then, sending money online was slow, expensive, and full of problems. Elon wanted to fix that. He wanted to make it fast, safe, and easy for anyone in the world. That idea became X.com, a company that would later turn into PayPal. The journey, however, would not be smooth. Investors doubted him again. Competitors tried to crush his startup. And even inside his own company, not everyone believed in his vision. But Elon had learned from Zip2. He had learned that success comes to those who refuse to quit. Each morning, As he walked into the small X.com office, he told himself, "This is just the beginning. Keep building, keep learning. Success is exciting, but success can also be dangerous." Elon learned this the hard way. X.com, his new company, started to grow. People were beginning to understand the power of sending money online. Investors started paying attention. Customers were signing up. The idea that once sounded crazy was now becoming real, but rapid growth brought chaos. Elon worked nonstop. He barely slept. He spent nights at the office, staring at computer screens, fixing problems, writing code, and planning meetings for the next day. His life became a blur of coffee, stress, and endless emails. Inside the company, tension grew. There were arguments about strategy. Some of his partners disagreed with him. They wanted to take the company in a different direction. Elon believed in his vision, a single platform that could handle all online financial transactions. But others didn't see it. The pressure built until one day, the board made a decision that hit him like a storm. They removed Elon as CEO. It was devastating. Imagine building something from scratch, pouring your soul into it, and then being told, "You're no longer in charge." Elon felt betrayed. He felt lost. For a moment, he even thought about walking away, but the mean single quotes T dot instead, he stayed with the company in a smaller role. He focused on improving the technology, on making the product better. He reminded himself of one truth: if you quit, the dream dies. If you stay, you can still make an impact. Eventually, X.com merged with another company and became PayPal. It wasn't perfect, and Elon was no longer the leader, but the mission survived. And when PayPal was sold to eBay for $1.5 billion, Elon walked away with over $100 million. He could have stopped there, retired, lived in comfort forever. But deep inside, he knew money wasn't the goal. The goal was to build the future. Still, those years left scars. Elon learned how brutal business could be. He learned that money and success attract both partners and enemies. He learned that leadership isn't just about building, it's about navigating storms, managing people, and staying calm under fire. One night, sitting alone in his small office after the PayPal sale, he wrote in his notebook, "Failure is part of the path. If you're afraid of falling, you'll never fly." Instead of buying yachts or private islands, Elon made a bold choice. He would invest almost everything into new companies: SpaceX, Tesla, SolarCity.3 industries most people thought were impossible to change. Rockets, too expensive. Electric cars, too slow. Solar energy, too weak. People laughed. Friends warned him. Investors said, "Don't do it. You'll lose everything." But Elon wasn't listening. He said quietly to himself, "If something is important enough, you do it, even if the odds are against you." And so he risked it all. After the PayPal sale, Elon was finally rich. More than $100 million in his account. Enough to live a life of luxury forever, but that wasn't him. Elon didn't want yachts. He didn't want endless vacations. He wanted to build the future, a future where humans could live on other planets, drive clean cars, and use energy that didn't harm the earth. And so he made a decision that many called insane. He would bet it all. The dream of SpaceX. Elon had been obsessed with space since childhood. Now, with resources in his hands, he started looking into rockets. At first, he thought about buying used rockets from Russia. He flew there, negotiated with officials, and tried to strike a deal, but every meeting ended with frustration. The prices were too high, and the technology was outdated. On the flight back, frustrated but not defeated, Elon opened his laptop. He began to calculate numbers. Slowly, the idea formed in his mind. If we can't buy an affordable rocket, we will build one ourselves. That single thought gave birth to SpaceX. In 2002. SpaceX was born in a small warehouse in California. The team was tiny, the budget limited, and the risk enormous. Engineers worked around the clock, learning from every mistake. Elon poured tens of millions of his own dollars into the company, ignoring the advice of everyone who told him it would fail. Elon would smile and say, because one day we will live on Mars. The birth of Tesla at the same time, another dream was taking shape. Electric cars. The world was addicted to oil. Cars were polluting the air. Big companies said electric cars would never work. Too slow, too boring, too expensive. But Elon disagreed. He believed electric cars could be fast, beautiful, and powerful. So, in 2004, he invested heavily in a small startup called Tesla Motors. Soon, he wasn't just an investor. He became the driving force behind the company, pushing engineers to build a car that would shock the world. Everything on the line by 2008, Elon had poured almost all his money into SpaceX and Tesla. What was left went into SolarCity, his solar energy project. He had three big dreams running at once, and all three were bleeding money. The first three SpaceX rocket launches failed. Millions of dollars went up in smoke. The media mocked him. Investors walked away. Tesla, too, was running out of cash. Bills piled up. Employees left. Critics called him crazy, reckless, arrogant, but Elon didn't stop. He worked day and night, often sleeping at the factory. He missed meals, skipped sleep, and spent holidays in the office. He refused to quit. He told his team, "We will find a way. Failure is not an option." By the end of 2008, he was almost broke. The man who once had over $100 million was now borrowing money to pay rent. Friends begged him to quit to save what little was left, but Elon believed in something bigger than himself. When something is important enough, you do it even if the odds are against you. By late 2008, Elon's world was collapsing. 3 rocket launches, 3 failures, millions of dollars lost. The media called him a fool. Investors whispered that SpaceX was finished, and Tesla. It was no better. Production delays, rising costs, and endless criticism pushed the company to the edge of bankruptcy. Elon was exhausted. He had invested almost every dollar he had. His savings were gone. He was borrowing money from friends to pay his bills, yet even in the darkest nights, he refused to quit. "I don't ever give up," he whispered to himself. "I'd have to be dead or completely incapacitated to quit." The fourth launch hit was September 28, 2008. The SpaceX team gathered at their small control center in California. The Falcon 1 rocket stood ready at the launch pad on a remote island. In the Pacific. This was it. The last chance. If this launch failed, SpaceX would die. Years of work. Millions of dollars. Endless hours of hope and pain, all gone. The countdown began. 3, 2, 1, ignition. The rocket roared to life. Flames burst from the engines as the Falcon 1 climbed into the sky. The team watched the screen, silent, holding their breath. Minutes felt like hours. Every second stretched forever. And then success. The rocket reached orbit. The first privately built rocket in history to do so. Cheers filled the room. Grown men cried. Engineers hugged each other, tears streaming down their faces. Elon closed his eyes, overwhelmed. The dream was alive. The call that changed everything. Days later, NASA called. They had been watching. Impressed by the successful launch, they offered SpaceX a $1.6 billion contract to deliver cargo to the International Space Station. In a single moment, everything changed. SpaceX was no longer the company that failed 3 times. It was now the future of spaceflight. Tesla's breath of life at the same time. Tesla was running out of time. The Roadster, Tesla's first car, was behind schedule, and the company was nearly bankrupt. Employees were being laid off. Investors were walking away, but then came another miracle. A last-minute funding deal came through, keeping Tesla alive. It was just enough to pay salaries, to keep the lights on, to buy a little more time. Elon didn't celebrate. He went straight back to work. He knew the battle wasn't over, but now, at least there was hope. The lesson of persistence. Elon had faced failure after failure. He had been humiliated, criticized, and left nearly broke. But he had one thing that no one could take away: Persistence. Persistence is very important, he often said. You should not give up unless you're forced to give up. A moment to breathe at night, Elon stood alone, looking up at the stars. The air was cool. The sky was quiet. For the first time in months, he allowed himself a small smile. The journey was far from over. The road ahead was still full of risks. But for now, the dream was alive. The fourth launch had done more than send a rocket into space. It had sent a message to the world. Anything is possible if you refuse to quit. Success is heavy. After the fourth rocket launch and NASA's billion-dollar contract, SpaceX was suddenly the center of attention. Reporters wanted interviews. Investors wanted meetings. The world finally believed in Elon, but with belief came pressure. At Tesla, the first roadsters were hitting the streets. People loved the idea of a fast, clean electric car, but the company wasn't ready for the flood of demand. Production delays, technical problems, and high costs created chaos. Every day felt like a fight for survival. Elon worked 18-hour days. Moving from SpaceX to Tesla, from Tesla to Solar City, barely sleeping. His diet was coffee, pizza, and adrenaline. But even he couldn't escape the weight of it all. Public criticism, the media began to turn on him. Articles called him reckless, arrogant, unstable. Analysts predicted Tesla would fail. SpaceX will never land a rocket, they said. Tesla will never make a profit. Even online, strangers mocked him. Some called him a scammer. Others said he was crazy. At first, Elon tried to ignore the noise. But deep down, it hurt. He had risked everything, not for fame or money, but to create something better for humanity. If you're trying to create something new, he said in an interview, you have to be prepared for people to misunderstand you. Private battles behind the success. Elon's personal life was falling apart. His marriage was breaking. He rarely saw his kids. His health was declining. He looked in the mirror and saw dark circles under his eyes. A man running on pure willpower. There were nights when he sat alone in the office, staring at the ceiling, asking himself, is it worth it? And then, as if to answer his question, another problem would appear. A rocket delay, a Tesla battery issue, a missed deadline. He had no time to rest. No time to heal. The breaking point by 2013. Tesla was again close to bankruptcy. The Model S. Production was draining cash faster than they could earn it. SpaceX had its own challenges with new rocket designs. It was chaos. But Elon refused to show fear. When something is important enough, he told his team, you keep trying. You keep fighting. There is no other way. The comeback then. Slowly, things began to turn. SpaceX achieved new milestones. Successful launches became routine. Rockets came back safely instead of burning up in the atmosphere. At Tesla, the Model S won awards, praised for its speed, design, and technology. Demand grew. Investors started believing again. Elon, however, didn't celebrate. Success, he knew, was fragile. Don't get comfortable, he told his engineers. This is only the beginning. The lesson of resilience. Every storm taught Elon the same truth. Strength is built in shadows. Criticism, failure, pressure, they don't break you unless you let them. That night, after a long day, Elon stood on the SpaceX balcony. The city lights glowed below. The rockets in the hangar stood tall and silent. He whispered to himself, we're just getting started. The storms began to clear. SpaceX was no longer the company that failed 3 times. It was now a leader. In space technology, rockets were launching regularly. Satellites were delivered safely. And most importantly, they had learned to land rockets back on Earth. The first time a Falcon 9 booster landed upright, the world gasped. People cheered online. Engineers cried tears of joy. What was once impossible was now routine. But Elon didn't stop to celebrate. He looked up at the stars and thought, this is just step 1. Mars is next. The rise of Tesla, the Model S, was turning heads. It wasn't just an electric car. It was a statement, fast, sleek, and silent. It changed how the world saw clean energy. But Elon wanted more. He pushed for bigger batteries, faster charging, and cheaper cars so that everyone, not just the wealthy, could own an electric vehicle. Engineers complained about the impossible deadlines. Suppliers said it couldn't be done. But Elon simply said, I don't think in terms of can or can't. I think in terms of how. And slowly the impossible became possible. Starlink and Neuralink, while SpaceX and Tesla grew. Elon started new dreams. One was Starlink, a network of thousands of satellites to bring internet to every corner of the earth, even the most remote villages. People laughed again. Too expensive, they said. Too ambitious. Today, Starlink satellites orbit the planet, connecting schools in deserts, ships in the ocean, and families far from cities. Another dream was Neuralink, a brain-computer interface to help people with paralysis and one day to merge human intelligence with artificial intelligence. Some called it science fiction. Elon called it the future. The risk. The stakes grew higher. SpaceX was preparing for Mars missions. Tesla was scaling production to meet global demand. Starlink was launching batches of satellites every week. And still, Elon lived the same way. Long hours. Little sleep, endless pressure. He often said, nobody ever changed the world on 40 hours a week. Some worried about his health. Others criticized his leadership style. But for Elon, the mission always came first, building the impossible. 2016, SpaceX did the unthinkable again, landing a rocket on a drone ship in the middle of the ocean. The moment was streamed live to millions around the world. It looked like science fiction, a rocket falling from the sky, slowing, balancing, and touching down softly on a tiny platform at sea. The world finally began to understand. This was real. The impossible was becoming normal. The message to humanity. For Elon, it was never just about cars, rockets, or satellites. It was about the future of humanity. He often said, I think it is important to have a future that is inspiring. A future that you look forward to waking up to. Whether it was colonizing Mars, creating a sustainable Earth, or building bridges between humans and technology, every project came from one belief. The world can be better if we dare to build. It taught the lesson of Vision. Elon taught the world a powerful truth. Dreams are not magic. Dreams are built. One decision, one action, one step at a time. That's how the future takes shape. That night, standing under a sky full of stars, Elon whispered to himself, this is just the beginning. The world is louder now. Everywhere you look, you see the name Elon Musk on electric cars gliding through quiet streets, on rockets breaking through the clouds, on satellites circling high above the earth. But behind the fame, behind the noise, is still the same boy from Pretoria. The boy who stayed up at night reading books about space. The boy who believed that curiosity could build something bigger than himself. Looking back, Elon often says he doesn't like to look back. But when he does, the journey feels unreal. A childhood of loneliness and dreams. A one-way ticket to Canada. Sleeping on the office floor in California. 3 rocket failures that almost ended everything. A 4th that changed the world. Each chapter, full of pain and lessons, built the man who would dare to move humanity forward. The power of belief. People always ask, how did you do it? How did you keep going when everything was falling apart? Elon's answer is simple. I never stopped believing. Not myself, but in the mission. He knew that one person cannot change the world alone, but one person can start. And when you start, others join you. A future for everyone today. SpaceX is building rockets to carry humans to Mars. Tesla is shaping the future of sustainable energy. Starlink is bringing the internet to millions who never had it. Neuralink is exploring ways to help people walk, see, or hear again. Elon's message is clear. The future is for those who build it. The cost of the dream, but dreams come with a price. Elon sacrificed sleep, comfort, and relationships. He faced criticism, failures, and pressure few could imagine, and yet he kept going. Not for money, not for fame, but for something deeper, a belief that humanity is worth fighting for. A message to you if Elon could sit with you. He might say this: your dream matters. It doesn't have to be big at first, but start, work hard, learn, fail, stand up, and never let fear decide your future. The world needs people who dare to try. Be one of them. The lesson of a lifetime Elon Musk story is not just about rockets and cars. It is about courage, resilience, and action. Be curious, be brave. Take risks, learn from failure, and above all, keep building. Because every big dream starts as a small idea in the heart of someone who refuses to give up. That night, as another Falcon rocket soared into the stars, Elon stood on the launch pad, watching the trail of fire fade into the sky. For a moment, he closed his eyes, and in that quiet moment, he whispered what he had always believed. This is just the beginning. Elon Musk's journey teaches a simple but powerful truth. Dreams are built, not wished for. Curiosity opened the door. Courage pushed him through it. Hard work, resilience, and the ability to learn from failure turned impossible ideas into reality. No matter where you start or how many times you fall, your future is in your hands. Take action, stay persistent, and never stop learning. Because every great achievement begins with one small step, and the belief that you can do more than the world expects. Your story, just like Elon's, is still being written. Make it one that inspires.